watching Viewpoint. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar and we're starting the show with some breaking news coming in. So amid the turmoil in Rajasthan, we're now understanding Congress interim president Sonia Gandhi has spoken to Ashok Gehlot. Meanwhile, he's holding a crucial meeting with senior ministers in his cabinet in Jaipur. Now, this conversation is going to be very, very crucial because yesterday we are picking up details of how the top leadership actually is very disappointed with Ashok Gehlot because of the kind of rebellion that we've seen. Ashok Gehlot, on his part, has completely washed his hands off, saying, I was actually unaware as far as his rebellion is concerned because the MLAs are not even listening to me. All of this is happening at a time when Sachin Pilot is already in the national capital. And as far as the Congress president elections are concerned, we haven't seen any other nomination other than Shashi Tharoor. So what really is happening? What was this conversation about? As I pointed out, the top leadership and even the observers, Mallikarjun Kharge and Ajay Makhan, they also now believe that because of the rebellion that we've seen by the Ashok Gehlot camp, it's now better that Ashok Gehlot possibly shouldn't be in the running to have the top job because they feel that one of the most crucial aspects of the party president is to try and keep the party together. But because of the rebellion that we've seen, possibly Ashok Gehlot is not the man for this job. As I pointed out, all of this happening at a time when Sachin Pilot is already in the national capital. Now we're understanding that Congress interim president Sonia Gandhi and Ashok Gehlot in fact have had a conversation. This becomes crucial, as I pointed out, because yesterday we were picking up details of how Sonia Gandhi, the top leadership, actually is disappointed with Ashok Gehlot, and they were actually raising questions as to why it had to come to this. My colleague and senior editor Pallavi Ghosh now joining us on the broadcast. Pallavi, as you were reporting for us even yesterday that the top leadership, the Gandhis, were very disappointed with Ashok Gehlot. Today, what was this conversation about?
It was a brief phone call which took place between Mr. Ashok Gehlot and Sonia Gandhi a short while back. And essentially in the brief conversation, Ashok Gehlot reassured Mrs. Gandhi, saying that there is no attempt to disrespect the High Command, and whatever they say is something which is going to be applicable to all the members of the Congress party, and no disrespect was actually shown to Mrs. Gandhi or to the Congress top leadership. And as far as the principles of the Congress party is concerned. Now this becomes significant because does this mean it paves the way of, say, a kind of a normalization of relationship between the Gandhis and Ashok Gehlot? We know this for a fact that yesterday at the meeting with observers, she was very upset. In fact, she also said that why did Ashok Gehlot have to do this? It looked like a breach of trust. It also looked like a violation of the party discipline. The fact is that two observers were called there for a CMP meeting because Ashok Gehlot had called for that meeting, and yet we saw a play out of the scenes which we saw in Jaipur yesterday.
Pallavi, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. To the top story that we want to discuss over the next 30 minutes. Today was part 2 of the pan-India raids on the Popular Front of India. 8 states and multiple locations. Investigative agencies conducted raids across Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Assam, National Capital, Maharashtra, Telangana and even Uttar Pradesh. The raids were in view of intelligence input suggesting that PFI's plans for violent protests against recent crackdown by agencies. The state police detained and even arrested PFI cadre in several states today. Remember, yesterday CNN News 18 brought you details of a possible lone wolf attack that is possible on BJP and RSS leaders as a revenge plot to counter these raids. Earlier this week, over 100 members of the PFI were arrested, once again raising the question, is this now the time for this outfit to be banned? We will take that question to our guests in just a bit. First, the story.
It's round 2 of the mega crackdown on Popular Front of India. Pan-India raids, searches in 8 states. Over 250 PFI members held. The maximum arrests were from Karnataka.
They were inciting communal violence or public disorder or trying to foment trouble in the society. Most of them, they are PFI members. Few of them, they are SDPI members.
The raids were a continuation of what we saw last week. Conducted on suspicions of PFI's involvement in organizing terror camps and encouraging youth to participate in terror activities.
Today in Assam, we have picked up 24 PFI people. This operation will be intensified.
PFI के बारे में जिस तरह की सूचनाएं हैं, जैसी गिरफ्तारियां हुई हैं, जैसे कामों में उनकी संलिप्तता की या संदिग्धता की ऐसी बातें लगातार उठी हैं, वो जांच का विषय है और उस पर जांच हो रही है.
The raids come at a time when there have been a series of revenge attacks by PFI members. On their target have been the homes and offices of RSS and BJP functionaries. It's now becoming increasingly clear that PFI is one of the biggest threats to national security. So is it time to ban the organisation once and for all?
We're now understanding the Kerala State Road Transport Corporation has moved the Kerala High Court seeking compensation for about 5 crores from PFI for losses caused to the corporation due to the strike that was called by them last week. Remember, last week we'd seen 71 KSRTC buses that were damaged and almost 11 employees that were injured as well. So now you have the State Road Transport Corporation who've now moved the Kerala High Court and they're now seeking a compensation to the tune of 5 crores from the Popular Front of India for the losses that were caused to the corporation due to the strike, as I pointed out, which was called by them last week. Let me bring in Pradeep Pillai in the conversation as well. Pradeep Pillai, is the number correct that we're looking at seeking compensation of almost 5 crores from the PFI?
Yes, we had reported on that day that the Hartal called by the Popular Front protesting the nationwide raids and arrests of top leaders from the state as well as from districts had seen widespread violence across the state. And one of the main targets was the Kerala State Road Transport Corporation, which is a state-owned public sector transport company. Its buses were widely stoned. 11 of the staffers were injured, including one driver who lost his eyesight partially. Now, the Kerala State Road Transport Corporation Deputy Law Officer has approached the Kerala High Court. It seeks a compensation of 5.06 crores from the Popular Front of India for the losses caused to the corporation due to the strike called by the PFI. The argument made by the KSRTC in the court is that the entire violence happened because of the Hartal call made by the office bearers of the Popular Front, and indeed they should be responsible for making good the damages. The petition also mentions the details of the damages, where it mentions 71 KSRTC buses were damaged.
Okay.
And of course, as I mentioned, 11 employees were injured.
Okay, Pradeep, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Let me also now bring in my colleagues who've been tracking these developments as far as these raids were concerned. As I pointed out, this was part 2. Arunima is already joining us on the broadcast. We'll shortly be joined by Vinaya, who's tracking these developments from Mumbai. But Arunima, let me come to you first. I want to talk to you about the pattern that we've seen from raids 1 to raid 2. If last time around it was the national agencies that were at the helm, this time around it was the state ATS. Talk to us about, do we have a number now? How many locations were raided today?
More than 200 is the figure that has been passed. That's when state police
that were raiding these locations. You already saw in the story that we filed from the Assam Chief Minister to authorities in other states confirming the arrest of PFI, including states like Madhya Pradesh. Now these are states in northern India and central India where PFI is present, and there have been allegations of them conniving to terror in alliance or in conspiracy with other terror organizations. In Madhya Pradesh, for example, you've seen JMB come up. Now in that JMB matter, just to give you a background, allegation were that these JMB terrorists infiltrated via Bangladesh through the Bihar Simanchal route, and that is an area where PFI is active in providing Aadhaar cards and other identity documents to those who are infiltrating. So there's a very thin line so far as activism and recruiting and being part of terror conspiracy is concerned. And that's the reason that NIA is taking this case, because they're looking at it from the prism of terror. Those arrested today, currently in custody of state police, but high possibility that NIA could take that over too.
Okay. Arunima, I'll just request you to stay on with us. Let me bring in Vinaya in the conversation as well. Vinaya, how many locations were raided as far as Mumbai or Maharashtra was concerned?
Well, at least 12 to 15 districts is what we are learning. But more importantly, in this massive crackdown that has been led by the state police, which is the Maharashtra police. It was a multi-agency operation. We are learning that at least 45 persons were nabbed from all across the state. Now let us understand, the focus in Maharashtra has primarily been on Marathwada. So may it be Nanded, may it be Aurangabad, we have seen a large number of detentions from there. We have also seen action in the financial capital, that's the capital of Maharashtra, Mumbai. 3 persons have been arrested from here. We have seen action in neighboring Thane district as well, Kalwa, Mumbra. So arrests have taken place from several locations, including Malegaon. Police say that this is a big breakthrough, particularly at a point when the first rung of the leadership was already arrested and the focus was on the second rung of the leadership. This is being seen as preemptive arrest in order to make sure that no further disturbances happen in the state. So this is what sources tell us as of now, Ridhima. Important raids from across the state this time, after the action by NIA, after the action by Maharashtra ATS. Now the state police has also swung into action. In fact, just yesterday, the Maharashtra ATS had also made its 21st arrest from the PFI cadres. Now that 21st arrest was made from Nanded. So crackdown in particular has been going on from several agencies, state agencies as well as central agencies, against the PFI. Back to you.
Okay, Vinay and Arunima, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Let me also now bring in our guest to take this discussion forward. We have Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. We have Arvind Kumar Jain, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. We have Atikur Rahman, Islamic scholar. We also have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow, ORF and Strategic Affairs expert. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Sushant, let me begin the conversation with you. When we saw the first set of raids, they were followed up by protests as far as Kerala were concerned. Then there was some sort of a warning as far as a revenge plot is concerned in terms of lone wolf attacks. Now we've seen the second set of raids also take place. Should we also now prepare ourselves possibly of some sort of, protest or a countermeasure by the PFI?
Absolutely. Look, what you have to look at, the sense which comes out from all these raids is how much the PFI has metastasized over the years. And the fact that the sheer spread of this organization and the kind of roots it has struck among sections of the Muslim community is something which should be of serious concern, not just to the political parties in this country, but also to the national security establishment. Now, an organization like the PFI, which is so well resourced and which has spread its poison across the body politic, is not going to just roll over and play dead. They are going to retaliate. Will they retaliate only with some kind of protest, perhaps violent, or will it take some other shape? And I mean terrorism, raw, unbridled terrorism coming out from them, which is something which they have been indoctrinated into, which is something which we know from the reports that they have been training for. And the kind of links they have with other dubious organizations around the world. So don't be surprised if you're going to see some kind of retaliatory action. I would imagine it could be a combination of both. It could be a combination of street protests. It could be a combination. It could be a mass mobilization of the sorts we saw during the CAA agitation. It could be simple targeted killings and targeted attacks, terrorist attacks. And these are not, please, for God's sake, don't call them lone wolf attacks. These are not lone wolf attacks. Lone wolf attack is a guy who's sitting in his room and who is self-indoctrinated and self-motivated and wants to go out and do something stupid. These are guys who have been trained, who are part of an organization, who will do what they will do as part of certain instructions which are given to them. That's not a lone wolf attack. So don't give them a kind of an alibi by calling it a lone wolf attack. Number one. Number two, please remember that these are guys who have been in touch with many of the terrorist organizations. So I think we need to be extremely careful on what kind of pushback is going to come from these fellows.
Okay. Abhijit, taking on from what Sushant is saying, that if we need to prepare ourselves as far as a pushback is concerned, I just want to talk to you about, isn't this like a counterproductive measure? When violence is seen as a justification to these raids, isn't the PFI and the cadre on the ground proving the point as far as the investigative agencies are concerned?
See, they've got enough people to justify everything that they do. Let me give you a simple example. A friend who does a podcast had called them terrorists, etc. They filed defamation cases against him in 15, 20 different courts. So they've got a huge set of so-called public intellectuals, lawyers, everything who dance to their bidding, who will, whitewash everything that they do. It'll all be put down as peaceful protests, justified protests, God knows what not. Ultimately, the framework that we need to look at this through is, like Sushant said, there are almost certainly going to be terror attacks of some kind and, public disturbances of some kind, which will be linked to this, saying you did this to PFI, therefore we're doing this to you. But the cost is, the question really is, how much more of those attacks and public disturbances would we have seen had the PFI not been disrupted so completely as it has today? So, the set of raids, because this is a Hydra-headed organization. It's got several different wings in several different places. And what we're seeing is a full system of systems crackdown on every single wing of their operation.
Correct.
Now, we still don't know, and this is what we know. We still do not know what we do not know. There might still be sleeper cells here and there, paths and silos that we don't know, which will probably get activated. And when it gets activated, what you will see is on one side a public justification of this, and the second, the exoneration of the PFI, saying, well, the PFI had nothing to do with this. This was a separate organization, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's actually my larger issue. There is still a section, a lobby that continues to justify that, on one hand, if you have these raids and a crackdown on the PFI, what about the others who continue to pledge for a Hindu Rashtra or others? My only question is that even a justified argument or is that a flawed one? Arvind Jain, I want to bring you in. Two things that I want to understand from you. One, this argument that we keep making that if you're attacking the PFI, why not the others who are pushing the idea of a Hindu Rashtra? The other concern is, yes, this crackdown is happening. Many are saying possibly late in the day. But what is the guarantee that we will not see this having another shape or form? This was the same concern as far as banning of Simi was concerned. It then got a new name and form, which is the PFI. What is the surety today that post this crackdown, the radicalization or the activities will see an end?
I would like to make one thing very clear, which I have said on several channels also, that maintenance of law and order is a state subject. It is not even in concurrent list because the states have been opposing it. It is not at all in central list. Center intervenes in very rare cases. During my 36, 37 years of service in UP, I have never seen central agencies directly involving themselves in carrying out raids. Yes, Intelligence Bureau, RAW, other agencies, they have been giving inputs to the state police forces, to STF, to ATS in UP, and they carry out the operation along with the state police. They provide information, they provide input, and operation is carried out by the state police. Here you see it is different. NIA, ED have carried out the raids. After taking into confidence the DGPs of the state, the higher people over there, and they also cooperated. But you see, you must have seen that in non-BJP states, ruled states, CRP was there to protect the raiding parties.
Yeah.
So they were apprehensive that there might be attacks on the raiding parties. So there must have been some very serious type of input with the central agencies about some incident which was likely to take place or something which was in offing, and they had to nip it in the bud, and that's why they carried out these raids. And subsequent raids are naturally very obvious, and they will have to keep on the pressure. And let me tell you one thing. My hunch is that PFI will not retaliate just now.
Okay.
They will bite for the time, and they will retaliate in such a way so that that act is not associated with PFI. CA and RC protest in Lucknow, which had turned violent, very violent, at several districts in the state.
Arvind Kumar is actually making a very crucial point that will we actually see the PFI cool down, or possibly will they use proxies? And this is interesting, sir, because today also the protest that we saw in Chennai, it was actually not the PFI and the STPI, but others that were actually helming this protest. Atikur Rahman, I want to understand from you, considering the fact that there is so much evidence, there are dossiers after dossiers with the NIA as well, and considering the fact that when these raids are happening, the only justification or defense that you're seeing by the PFI is a violent demonstration, why should it not be banned?
Well, if the evidence is there and proven in a court, I do not see that any power on earth can stop the government from taking any harsh measures. Since 2 or 3 days we are being corner announcing that if you support the PFI, it is next turn you will be jailed. So I am quite careful, even threatened. Yesterday some channels even threatened some of the anchors to me. So with care and concern, I should put my point that our support to the PFI is only constitutional. If it is established they are involved in any unconstitutional measures or violations of the IPC, our support will be ending there. Why we are supporting it? Because so far there is no evidence. The evidence has been either placed by the police agencies, investigating agencies. In the Hadia case we have seen even the PFI was related to ISIS, that was not established. Hadia was tortured for more than 3 years. Nothing could come out of it.
Just talk to me about what has happened as far as raids 1 were concerned. There is Hartal in Kerala. We're understanding it was possibly only a precursor. Now we're understanding there is possibly a revenge plot as well. But we're also getting some updates now coming in. And this actually is a CNN News 18 mega exclusive where we're now understanding, and this is what we're picking up by the means of top government sources, saying that all preparations have been done to ban the PFI. The order will likely to be given very soon. Top government sources say the writing after raids suggests that PFI is a dangerous organization. Sources say PFI is capable of any kind of terror activity. Interrogation reports suggest they're in touch with many international organizations to destabilize India. Abhijit, only a matter of time then before we hear as far as an official ban is concerned?
Absolutely. And look, we have to appreciate the fact that this has gone by the book. We've seen so many times that bans have been enacted when, the government can't back it up with evidence and it gets reversed. And so here they've done the correct process, which is collect all the evidence, present a case, and then have it banned. So I think it is only now a matter of time. Let's see.
Okay. Atikur Rahman, you were trying to make a point earlier. Now we're picking up possibly a matter of time before we see a ban on the PFI. Why should the government, despite all the evidence in place, as Abhijit was saying, gone by the book, still not ban this outfit?
You see, what I gather from the other panelists, they are basing their arguments on conjectures. They are basing on all their arguments on hypothetical things, that they will be projecting themselves, PFI will be retaliating in this manner.
No, but what is conjecture? There is a Bihar module that is busted. Links are found as far as the PFI is concerned. There is an anti-CA protest that happens. Links are found to the PFI. When there are raids that are taking place on the PFI, there's Hartal and protests that we're seeing. Public property is vandalized. Over 200 cases as far as the PFI is concerned, just alone in Kerala, other states as well. What is the evidence that we're looking for?
You see, Hartal and any kind of a backlash comes only in a democratic tradition. What about the Hartal and a protest carried out in Bengal just 3-4 days back? Was there no violence? the BJP was there and that is why that can be justified. So we are rather, addressing the main point of view of what exactly should be done to safeguard the nation, the constitution and our republic. We are gathering our, things on hypothetical arguments. Why are we running a media trial?
There's no media trial that is happening, Atikur Rahman. Let's be a little more rational.
Do their job.
Let's call a spade. And let's also all come together, keeping differences aside when issues are of national security. Anyway, we'll have to see when that ban actually comes through and what the fine print will be. Unfortunately, I've completely run out of time. I'd like to thank all our guests as well. It's a wrap from my side. The biggest exclusive is up next.